my co-worker here, Supervisor Joy Brotherton. We have the Kingman Constable. And we have the Kingman Mayor, Janet Watson. All right, we're here for a town hall for our Congressman Paul Gosar, and I'm gonna read a little. I know Penny said you don't have to read, you can just talk, because I know, well, yeah, I'm gonna read just a little, okay? But then I'm gonna talk just a little, just a couple of seconds. Congressman Paul Gosar, D.D.S., Dentist Superior, hails from Prescott, Arizona, and is serving his second term in Congress as the representative from Arizona's 4th Congressional District. As a healthcare provider and small business owner, Gosar is focused on bringing jobs back to the district, reforming healthcare, reining in government spending, and ensuring that the American people are involved in the solution-making process. Before being elected to Congress in 2010, Gosar owned his own dental practice, and we know that because at every event he used to give out toothbrushes with his name on it. And I missed that, by the way. Do you have any in your car for us out there? No? You got one in your pocket? Okay. For 25 years in Flagstaff. His experience in dentistry earned him the recognition of the Arizona Dental Association's Dentist of the Year, and he was also inducted into the Arizona Dental Association's Hall of Fame. His experience in working to reform healthcare first came when he served as the president of the Arizona Dental Association and as the vice chair of the American Dental Association Council on Government Affairs. Just a few little quick facts, according to my piece of paper here. Dr. Gosar and his wife Maud have 3 children. His current home is in Prescott, Arizona. He was born November 27, 1958 in Rock Springs, Wyoming, which makes you a year older than me. I'm very happy about that. He got his bachelor's degree from, what did he say, Creighton University. And yes, he is a Republican. And his committee assignments, and these are very important for your questions and everything, his committee assignments are the Natural Resources Committee and the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Yeah, Michelle's favorite. Okay, there's one paragraph, and this is why I read, there's one paragraph here that is something that all politicians have on their bios. And ordinarily, I probably wouldn't read it. But because I have gotten to know our congressman, and because we rarely see our congressional congregation out here in the hinterlands, very rarely, and I have to say that Congressman Gosar has been here more this past year than I think I have seen previous congressmen the whole time I've been involved in Mohave County and following politics. So I want to thank him for that. He is sincere, and he has always done exactly what he's told me he's going to do. So I'm going to read this, because I mean it, okay? Whether Gosar is in Washington, fighting for his constituents, or back home in Arizona, listening to the people and working together to find solutions to the problems that face Arizona's 4th Congressional District, us, he remains committed to ushering in a new era of government that empowers individuals and reforms the bureaucratic procedures that stifle job creation and innovation. Please join me in welcoming our Congressman, Dr. Paul Gosar. Okay, while you get that going, this is I made a mistake. We have not done the pledge. So Mayor Watson will lead us. If everybody will rise, please forgive me for that oversight.
Thank you. And you see our flag? Let's all join together in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Prayer. Oh, I'm up?
Sean is a veteran.
Okay. Well, good evening. Thanks for all coming out tonight. It's an absolute pleasure. Just a short amount of time I've been here, I saw more smiles than I've seen in the whole month of January in Washington, D.C. So there's something corny about being a dentist, but you know, there's something about a smile A smile empowers people to come to solutions. That means that you're willing to meet people and listen and communicate. So there's something about a smile. So before I get started, there's a couple people I want to share and introduce. First of all, I'd like to share one of our veterans that works in my office, Sean Johnson. Would you wave at everybody? He was a wounded warrior. He comes to us through the Wounded Warrior program, and he's been absolutely insightful in regards to our veterans. Stephen Smith runs my mail office. Jeremiah, can you wave everybody? He helps me over in the Prescott office. And then Penny is my district director. Who else do I got? Oh, where's Garrett? Where did Garrett go? Oh, right here. Garrett's going to help me with the IT, you know. So we're going to have some fun. So first of all, what we're going to do tonight is we are going through a PowerPoint. Everybody that I go through, oh, I forgot one last person. I didn't see him come in here. Tom Van Flyne, my chief of staff back in the suit. So one of the things we're going to start doing is in every town hall I do now, everybody has to go through a PowerPoint. Because we have to understand what we're going to base our decisions on in the future based upon facts. Compare and contrast. And so what we're going to do is, you may gravitate to something on the graph a little bit differently than your neighbor. Same thing with me. But at least it gives us a core fundamental aspect that we can start to share on. So we're going to get started. Garrett? Now the biggest threat that we have to our national security is our debt. That actually came from Admiral Mullen. He was right on this. He was wrong on the advisory board from Benghazi, but he was right on this. Next one. Now you know why he's crying. Because that is the debt that everybody inherits when you're a little one. $54,000. And what did they do to deserve that? We have to understand what is causing this debt process. It's twofold. But let's go through the steps to find out why he's crying. Next one. So here about 2010, we're going to see this sharp escalation in our debt. What's creating this pathway? We have to start understanding what's creating this so we can solve it. Next. This is probably the most important graph. We were trying to get the 2013 data, but everybody is so slow in Washington, D.C. They say they got to be very accurate, and it's not accurate, but this will give you some format to base everything off of. The red areas here are called mandatory spending. Okay? So they're on autopilot. These two areas are the keys that most of us deal with in Congress. One is called non-defense discretionary spending, and then defense spending. So these are very, very key. Okay? So when you look at this, these two numbers have gone down over the last 2 years until this year. They actually went down, not in growth rate, but actually went down. Overall, the budget increased because these were on autopilot and they grew. So let's have a conversation. This first one right here, this interest is abnormally small for the time. Most economists believe that this is going to double or triple in the next 18 months to 2 years, inflationary aspect. So we're dealing with times of $223 billion just in our interest payments. It's going to grow, so it's going to get much bigger. So let's come back down here to Social Security. Let's start talking about Social Security, because this is going to be one of the first things that hits us. In about a year, we're going to see those that are dependent upon the Social Security Disability Fund get a severe wake-up call. They're going to see a lot less in their money, because there's no money left in here. It's running out. No, we'll come back and talk about it, okay? Because I'm brutal about the facts, okay? But this is going to be our first indices. But let's talk about Social Security. When Social Security was first started, there were 23 workers for every retiree. It was meant for a 2 to 4 year window, not a 10 to 15 year window, which we're talking today. Even if we did have a lockbox and we put our money away and the government didn't touch it, and we look back at 20/20 hindsight for best management practices, it gives you 7 to 8 years, not 10 to 15. And what we've done is elected bureaucrats and politicians back that didn't answer up to changing times. So we got problems. Let's talk about the next one. Medicare. No, go back. Medicare. Big one right here. In 1965, when Medicare started, when you had a heart attack, $13 buys you about enough glycerin tablets for a year, and bed rest, which was state of the art for a heart attack. Today, We're going to put you on a table. We're going to crack open your chest. We're going to resect vessels. We're going to put new valves in. We may even give you a new heart and the medications that go with it. It's expensive. Now, John F. Kennedy never did see Medicare, but he made a comment. He said, for these programs that we're promising for perpetuity, if we don't take the increase of age and the advancement of science, we'll become victims of it. Home run. He hit it. Field goal. You name it. He was dead on. We have got to start looking at these. So when we start pointing at these as success models, they're doomed to failure if we don't change. So go back to that picture of that little kid crying. Now we know why he's crying, for the most part. We've had wanton spending, we don't understand the programs that we have on automatic pilot, and we're not willing to discuss them and make changes. So we got problems, folks. Mayday, mayday. Go back to that. So what I was hoping to do is hoping to have some to compare against. Hopefully the next time I come around, we will actually do. We'll have a compare and contrast. But these two, I've told you, back and forth, have gone back and forth. Okay? Now, I'm going to pick on something else. Right there. Defense. I believe in a strong defense, but I don't think I should be spending my money unwisely. Everybody, now I'm not a military guy, but the military tells me that out of that $670 billion every year, up to $100 billion, yeah, I said it, up to $100 billion is done in a procurement process that's shuffling papers. Now, I'm one of those Republicans that says, listen, we got to have a strong defense, but I'm not paying that $100 billion. Oh, by the way, I was one of those people, the only member of the delegation in the Congress and the House to vote for sequestration. Because what did I promise you? I promised you I was going to cut the budget, cut spending, and I did. Okay? So we wanted that. So what did we just do now in this last little budget deal? We let the defense off to do bad habits again. And what we did is we attacked our veterans. The last place we should have done. We had to go back to this. Okay? So I'm an equal opportunity chastiser. Okay? We let the military off and allowed him to go back to bad behavior. Okay? Now we'll keep coming back to this one because these are the numbers that will set you free. Okay? Excellent. So this is our trajectory and this is our spending problem. What these two actually show us is the most important part is last year about this, right before Christmas, we passed Congress passed, I didn't vote for it, is tax increases. Because one of the mantras is, we got to increase taxes. It's going to benefit everybody. Well, that's all it generated. That's the only revenue that generated. But what it did is it implicated businesses severely. And you're going to see this over and over again. Now, I'm a science guy. So what I want to do is, if I got a theory, I'm going to propose a theory, I'm going to put out my idea, I'm going to run it through, and I should come up to a conclusion. And then I should be able to hand it to you, you do the same thing and get the same results. Okay? Scientific method and theory hypothesis. Okay? Over and over again, we're seeing more taxes, more spending, and it's going nowhere. It's actually having a reverse effect. So remember this one. Okay? Next one. So when we look at anticipated revenues over time, back to 1965 and going forward, this is what we see, this red line trajectory. These four programs, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and net interest, about 2022 will absorb 100% of our budget. So it's escalating. Because remember what I told you. Back when we started Social Security, there were 23 workers for every retiree. Today, 2.3 and falling fast. Where's my job? Where's my opportunity? Okay? So big problem here. Okay? Go back to that pie graph again. What's missing out of this pie graph coming up this year? It wasn't passed at this point in time. Obamacare. Obamacare is going to have another pie piece on here. Okay? So
non-discretionary or?
It's mandatory. It's mandatory spending, autopilot. Okay? So once again, we got problems. We have to start putting people here. They're going to have a conversation about facts. Okay? Fast forward, Garrett. Now, I get a lot of people saying a lot of debt, and it just was brought up in the news. We now owe China $1.32 trillion. Okay? So, and why I say that is, that's that little piece right there. You, the taxpayer, are owed the most. 52% you are owed. Social Security Fund is one of them, okay? And you're not even first in line. But look at how it's grown. In 1970, 6% were foreign holdings, 1990, 19%, and here in 2012 was 48%. Something about this graph should alarm you. Late last year in November, China didn't show up to the bond market. They didn't buy our debt. Actually, Japan and Great Britain and Germany did. But if they don't, we're in trouble. And your paper money becomes worthless. Then you can't print enough money. So Mayday, Mayday, you better come to grips with economics here. Otherwise, we're all going to suffer unequivocally. Okay, next one. If we don't take care of this debt, we're going to see historic tax increases, and we're going to also see historic unemployment. Just a fact. It's life. That's what happens. And so let's address it and grab hold of it. Next one. Okay. So we did a case study. I want to go back to this procurement process. That billions are being misspent in here, just pushing paper. That means that something that would help our military today is not available for 5 years. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Men and women that are putting their lives on the line don't have access to something in the military that can actually help them because we've got a bunch of pencil pushers. This has got to change. I've said this over and over again. I will debate anybody in regards to this aspect. You have to have efficiency all the way across the board. So we have to be an equal opportunity, reviewer of this aspects. Next one. These are some of the key points, and we want to walk through these point by point. There's lack of trust in central planning leading to increased bureaucracy. So some of the things that we see in like elbow joints, little plastic PVC joints, you can buy them for 99 cents, $1.35. But why is the military contractor getting $13.57? That's ridiculous. We've got to have a joint board, and there actually happens to be one that oversees that. Preference to defense unique versus commercial solutions. This isn't rocket science. We got to be able to have a common sense application that's not just science-based, but also common sense application in the commercial industry. Distrust of the defense industry and profit motives. Well, that goes both ways. But we have to have transparency. The way that you air that out is by showing everybody the numbers. It makes it very, very important. Okay? And fear that this workforce is incapable of exercising discretion. Well, part of discretion is transparency and holding people accountable. There has to be a ramification for bad behavior. If there's nothing, then we have unwanted bad behavior. Hence, Congress. Preoccupation with cost certainty and maintaining low prices over achieving results and value. Yeah, they're so predicated that they can't see their nose despite their face. So we got problems here in the defense industry, and it's worth $100 billion. That's something I don't want 10 years from now. I want it tomorrow. Because that gives me closer to a balanced budget so that we're not going into the red. And gets us better opportunities for people to get jobs. Okay? So point blank. Now, why do I bring this up? Because I was one of the people that a gentleman by the name of Barry Broom chastised. He actually said that we got to get rid of those Republican congressmen because they're causing a problem in our defense industry. Hell no, and hell no. I want my industry, I want my cake and eat it too, but I want to have oversight. I want to be as transparent as what we've been promised. I want to be able to share that information. Maybe one of you understands it better than I. I'm going to lean on you. Tell me how we cut. Okay? Oh, I know. But that's my point. He made the comment that we're losing defense industries based upon my vote. Absolutely not. Those were gone beyond this. So we got to start looking at these equal and applicably. Next one. Tax reform and sequestration. Okay? You know I voted for sequestration. I don't run from it. I don't hide from it. I actually made cuts, and we just lost all those cuts just in this last budget deal. Okay? Next one. We were told that the sky is falling. Sky is falling. Absolutely not. Most of us didn't even feel any effect of sequestration. And these are some of the biggest cuts that we've done in 20 years. Real cuts, real dollars being cut. Okay? Next one. We're going to go through these real quick. This got flipped differently than me. This just gives us an idea for FY 2013. We actually had sequestration, okay, so we actually made cuts, and we raised revenues by taxing the rich. Okay? So we saw $1 trillion in deficit go down. So we actually reduced it based upon this, and this basically tells us what we did. Okay? Next one. What does sequestration do? It was supposed to cut $1.2 trillion over 10 years, so $120 billion. Everybody said, God, that's a lot of money. Really? Let me tell you what I discovered. Okay, I put myself through school as a construction guy. Okay? Does everybody know what prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon is?
Oh,
Ooh. It's the artificial inflation of all government contracts, an additional 22%, so certain labor unions get those contracts. Let me repeat. An average of 22% increase so that certain groups can get those that contract. Okay? So I've put amendments on the floor. I can't even get Paul Ryan to vote for them. Okay? I want open competition. It's going to save us money, right? There's no difference in the job. I got to still satisfy the same person that's looking over my engineering threshold, right? So I can't get it. So what happens is there's this agency called the Government Accountability Office, and they audit agencies. So last year they audited Davis-Bacon. I am sure glad you are sitting down. Because not 99, not 91, not 95, not 99, but 100% of those calculations for the prevailing wage were fraudulent. Wow, that's government at its best, right? Whew. So we did a study in our office. Oh, by the way, we do things like a team. So we start working on this. So we found out it was the Department of Wages that was conducting these equation of Davis-Bacon. And we found out they're pretty crappy at that job. I think they should have got an F on that for 100% fraudulent in their calculations, right? What we found is if we transferred it to the Bureau of Statistics, doing a bill, which we've actually introduced, that changes 6 words. The calculations of the prevailing wage will be conducted by the Bureau of Statistics and taken away from the Bureau of Wages, or the Department of Wages, Bureau of Statistics. Do you know how much you would save? $15 to $25 billion a year without Homeland Security and DOD because they haven't been audited. And if you were to include them, you could possibly save $100 billion a year. Billion. Billion. And we won't do it. Oh, that's what I'm still trying to figure out. Okay? So anyway, we can do this. $120 billion of cuts every year, we can do this. These were some of the things that they were supposed to roll out, but these have been negated now. Okay? Next one. I'm going to go past this one because it really is negated now because of what the budget deal is. Go next one. These were real results, so we're actually showing better than Clinton and Gingrich and even Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. So these were significant cuts. They were making government accountable to you. Oh, by the way, it's not to hurt the American public. It's meant government to be accountable to you, the taxpayer, for how they're spending your money. That's what sequestration is about. It's not the first time we've done it either. Okay? Next one. Real savings. Keep going. Keep going. We had a failure. Okay? So we had a deal conducted by Patty Murray and Paul Ryan behind closed doors that obfuscated this whole thing. Okay? We didn't do our budget. We didn't do it well. We didn't have insights. I had 48 hours, 1,548 pages to look at it in less than 48 hours. I will compliment my staff. We divided it up. We read it. We found out why we weren't going to vote for it. And there's plenty. We'll go through all that. But this is wrong. This is an unaccountability, and both Paul and Patty are wrong with this. Okay? So once again, I'm calling out a Republican. I'm also calling out a Democrat. This is not big boy politics. This is not what you deserve being an accountable party. Next one. So why did they kill the sequester? One of them was the military lobby. Okay? They didn't want to have to change. They wanted to use bad behavior. Okay? That's one of them. Who lost? Taxpayers. Who won? The lobbyists. Point blank. Call it like I see them. Don't like it? No. That's what, I don't give you a rosy lens, a color lens picture from my eyesight. Next one. Now you're going to feel the impact. Okay, does everybody know what PILT is? Payment in lieu of taxes. There are $0 in there. That means us with lots of federal land are going to get no taxes in compensation. And this goes to our law enforcement, our fire suppression, and our education. Folks, we already get less than 1/2 of the tax dollars that are spent east of the Mississippi for education. We get less than 1/2. Are we the stepchildren of the federal government? And we get zero? Guess what we were told? We're going to actually take and pass PILT with a farm bill. Really? Farm bill's in trouble. So we're trying to extort votes on the farm bill.
Somehow it goes on there. Okay.
So we were promised that we would actually get this. Now, I actually have something on the table. Arizona Sovereignty Act, Land Act, basically prevents the president from unilaterally making any dictation of federal lands away from the state of Arizona, or any state. We're dependent upon this. We're rural Arizona. And we still have to actually upkeep roads. Ask your county supervisors to all these federal lands. You know, Hildy. This is ominous. So a very bad taste in my mouth based on PILT. Okay? And the speaker and the majority leader actually heard about it from the Western Caucus. Okay? And by the way, next slide. None of your Republicans actually voted for it. Okay? This actually bloats it up to $1.1 trillion in spending. It's riddled with pork and waste. It's infected with bad policy. It's bloated with giveaways. Passed overwhelmingly with no debate and no amendments. It was 1,500 plus pages, less than 48 hours. No one can actually read it. There's only 67 of us that fought back. The whole entire Arizona Republican Party delegation said no. Okay? Oh, it gets worse. Border security cut by $160 million. Oh, absolutely. $160 million. Security in our embassies across the world. You remember Benghazi? Cut by $240 million. Okay? What we were told is that the president wanted new spending levels for educational programs. We were told he didn't get it. No, he got almost $500 million. $500 million in, what's the program? Head Start. Something that's never shown any value in the educational process. So we actually invested another $500 million in Head Start. Okay? So something's wrong with this equation. And it's not just Democrats, by the way, folks. It's Republicans too. Once again, equal opportunity here. Okay? Next one. So part of the equation is cutting government spending. The other part of this is what? Job creation. Getting jobs, opportunity. Because you can't cut all this away. You also have to be able to look at it. But starting January 1st, things happened here. What happened? Full-time employees, it's based on 30 hours. Okay? And there's a 50 employee threshold in regards to Obamacare. Why do I bring that up? For folks like us, with those jobs, majority of them now are temporary work, 30 hours or less. Or I guess it's full-time work. But for us out in rural Arizona, we need 3 of those jobs for every household. 2 to pay for the 40-hour wages and 1 to pay for the benefits. Something's going amiss. Something's going wrong. Okay? Go ahead, next one. Plenty of job bills. Dozens upon dozens are sitting on Harry Reid's. Like what? Everybody says. Okay? Next one. Like the Skills Act that actually takes long-term unemployed people and gets them training in to re-enter the workforce. Still sitting on his act. The Keystone Pipeline, 20,000 jobs, 100,000 jobs indirectly. Opportunity, energy independence. REINS Act would require Congress to approve any rule or regulation that costs $100 million or greater. Sounds kind of common sense, doesn't it? Okay? So these are sitting on the desk. Next one. What's my focus? My focus is getting people back to work. What's special about Arizona? 5 C's. Cattle, citrus, climate, cotton, and? Copper. Next slide. Deja vu. Copper. Southeast Land Exchange would bring $1 billion, yes, $1 billion a year, each year for the next 50 years, and almost 4,000 jobs. These aren't 30-hour jobs. These are jobs that pay anywhere from $40-some thousand to $165,000. These are jobs that you buy a house, you buy a car, you invest in America, and you invest in your community. Oh, by the way, they pay royalties too. Where do those royalties go? To education. There you go. You want some money? Here's a great way of doing this. And you know what? Who loves their cell phone? I do, sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know what? You don't have copper, you don't have this. You don't have everything. The new cars, 30% more copper. Number second to only aluminum is copper for the defense industry. So copper is king. This would bring almost 25% of what we're importing now of 30% to our state. This is the same mine that has been mined for 100 years. It's just at 7,000 feet in the ground. Unbelievable what we're looking at. Okay, next one. Fires. Holy lordy. Let's talk about fires. My first term, we had the Wallow fire in my district. You spent over $200 million putting out that fire. You as taxpayers lost $2.5 billion with a B dollars of assets. Oh, and by the way, I'm a conservationist. Remember those little spotted owls? 20% of the known world number burned up in that fire. Who won? Nobody. We lost. We got to put people back to work. Everybody agrees that thinning the forest is it. Okay? So we finally got some resolution here. We have up to 50,000 acres. Right now we stand at 30,000. We're making a push for 100,000. We may be able to have 600 people in the forest by the end of May. These are real jobs, folks, again. They're $30,000 to $70,000. Here we go. We got opportunity. And this is what is happening in Arizona. Oh, by the way, here's what's riding on it. If we fail here, so does the rest of the United States. There will be no logging and thinning forest projects in the United States in mass scale. This has to be 100,000 acres a year. Not 20, not 30, but 100,000 acres. Numbers work. And we're finally getting some people to help us out. Okay? So there's 2 of them. And boy, these are rural Arizona jobs. So if we had 3,700 from the first one and now 600, 700 here, we're starting to add those up, folks. We're starting to build some mass here. Next one. Navajo Generating Station. Any businesses want to come to Arizona? Oh, they're flying from over here. They contact my office all the time from California. Why? Because if you're going to have a business, you have to have dependable energy. Here we go. Navajo Generating Station. By the way, it's historic. It sits on Native American property. It lifts water out of the Colorado. It delivers 50% of the water to Tucson or to Phoenix and 80% of the water to Tucson. Take that away, half of Phoenix goes away, 80% of Tucson goes away. And what you know of Arizona goes away. Because we're part of it here too. Because we're part of the lift cycle. Okay? So this is dependable. The government, the agencies, the administration can't come in here and do cap and trade. It never passed House or Senate. It never passed the legislative body. You can't implicate or implement an executive order based upon that. Can't do it. That's why we're trying to get into the Supreme Court. Okay? Next one. Healthcare. Big one these days. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some videos. Because I get chastised a lot. If I remember right, somebody chastised me in your paper. And I'll bring up their name here in just a second. I'm very accountable, and I hold people accountable as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what America thinks about Obamacare. Okay? But our problem with Obamacare is website is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay? Now, they said there's been no breach, but they've actually shared your information with people that shouldn't have had your information. Government did that through the exchange. Crappy exchange. You spent, oh, by the way, that Davis-Bacon competitive bidding, we didn't do that. We actually gave it selectively to this group who did a crappy job. Okay? And now you're going to double your money because you're going to redo it all over again and make some changes. Okay? Demographics. You have to have a lot of young people signing up, otherwise it's not going to work. We're already in the death spiral. I told you that businesses are coming to me. They've been promised that now, because they got a 1-year moratorium, didn't they? So now they're like the rest of us, individuals. Some of them saw a 60% increase. Those were revoked and added another 30% on it. Those people that lost their insurance, the insurance companies are actually adding to that because you're changing the actuarial tables. You're destroying them, folks. Costs. We've seen premiums rise, out-of-pockets rise, co-pays rise, and we've seen everything rise. Your deductible rise. People are going to pay more. Last but not least, you're going to be limited in choices. So the next photograph should be the big lie. Next photo. Nope. Okay. It's going to cost us $2.6 trillion. $819 billion in taxes. $45 billion in cost penalties to just Americans for not taking health care. And 10 million Americans that are expected to have lost their health plans do it by the end of March. by the numbers. 3.5 have already been notified their plan's going to be terminated. Now we're going to have businesses come back into the play. Okay? This is not about new ones. 59 Democrats voted against a resolution that would allow Americans to keep their health care plans. 59. Okay? 6 people in the first 24 hours actually signed up nationwide on Obamacare. And 0 people have been fired to date. That's not what I call accountability, okay, at all. Okay? That became the lie of the year. It's not me. This is everybody calling this out. Because if you wanted to keep your health care plan, you couldn't keep your health care plan.
Moving on.
If you wanted to keep your doctor, you couldn't keep your doctor. So here we go. Go ahead.
To the most important, the lie of the year. Control room, I don't even know if we have this. Can we get a drum roll? Can I get, oh, thank you very much. So here it is, by popular demand, the #1 lie of the year, based on something the president first said in 2009 and then updated in 2013.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. What we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law's passed.
So this was a runaway favorite.
Oh, now, Jake Trapper is conservative or liberal?
Liberal.
Okay.
Liberal.
So not out of my mouth, so just FYI. You going to go back? Okay, next. Okay, now, we're going to turn up the volume. So we have some millennials. So you need to know exactly. The next one, because we're an equal opportunity employer here. Okay, next one.
Okay, everything seems normal. Oh, and I see you're new to Obamacare as well.
Yeah, I saw the ads and I figured why not?
Take your pants off.
Okay.
All right, hop up here, lay down, and bring your knees to your chest.
Is this necessary?
We'll try to make this quick.
Watch his eyes. Okay, so the whole point is here is government's going to be dictating this, okay? So what happens in January of 2015? Slide. Uncle Sam is going to be 15 Uncle Sams called the IPAB board. So instead of one saying that, and remember the doctor is checked out because he's going to have everything okayed here, 15 unelected bureaucrats are going to decide what's good in best management practices. So if you feel uncomfortable with one Uncle Sam in there, I don't know about you, but I want my healthcare provider to have a conversation with me. So the other side of the aisle keeps saying, you know, Dr. Gosar, what do you stand for? Well, the one thing Paul Gosar has been doing is always been putting something on the table. I've always said no isn't an answer. It's what is it going to take for you to say yes. Next one. A patient-centered, patient-friendly healthcare system. I practiced this for 25 years. You're the center of the world. Everybody competes for you. That means hospitals, that means providers, that means insurance companies. Oh, by the way, yeah, you heard it, insurance companies. The only guy talking about breaking up the insurance monopoly is yours truly. It's called McCarran Ferguson. Doesn't allow them to share their information. They got to compete like everybody else. And ERISA, being able to understand what you're getting in your benefit. The only one talking about ERISA is yours truly. Okay? Everybody's got to compete. Number 2 is tax and tort reform. In this healthcare bill, do you see any tort reform? Absolutely not. You got to have everybody has skin in the game. So what we do is we've actually got a plan that actually does this. And what it does is embraces states' rights. States like California and Texas already have some good laws. Empower them. For states that don't have it, we backdrop it by the Federal Tort Claims Act so there's something there that we can work off of. But empower states to have a competitive edge. Okay? Last one, all you saw tax reform. How about you carry more pre-tax dollars just like a business? And in the Republican plan that I helped kind of that I helped pen, a family could put $25,000 away as a family, pre-tax dollars. An individual could do $7,500. And it's an opportunity. We're not telling you that's fixed in stone. We're starting the discussion. Okay? And last but not least, we got to redefine public health. Public health's got to fill in the gaps. Now, is this going to cover everybody? Everybody goes, well, Dr. Gosar, you're missing something. Pre-existing conditions and high-risk pools. Oh, we thought about that. We actually put $25 billion in a pool, and because we broke up the insurance industry, we said we're going to reward you with good best management practices because we saw high-risk pools in several states, 5 of them, doing some incredible things. Instead of costing more money, this actually saves money, lowers costs, and brings a competitive edge. It means that I control my health care. By the way, I pick on that. I'm allergic to wheat and gluten. Okay? I have a 7 to 8 greater chance of having a lymphoma. You can figure this out. I want an insurance company that comes to me. I'm a doctor, so I'm one of the worst patients. Okay? So what they're going to come back and say to me is, Dr. Gosar, if you'll go and get an exam twice in 3 years, we're going to give you an incentive on your premium. Because we know lymphomas are easier to treat when we catch them early. Wow. Amazing. Inspired behavior that I win. So there's opportunities in this. Is this going to do it for everybody? Absolutely not. But it works. It actually works. And we need to have a discussion with the American public of what we stand for. So I have been out there from day one talking about this. There is opportunity. There is an alternative. So we need to be able to challenge and hold people accountable for our challenge. Okay? I just got to ask you a question. I think the gentleman's name is Dean Wolfslegel, Democratic chair. Do I sound like a mean-spirited, angry mob because I want you to have the best of health care? We ought to choose our definitions and our adjectives a little bit nicer because we ought to have a conversation. And why do I say that? I'm one of 10 kids. 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans, 1 independent. My brother's Democratic chair for the state of Wyoming. If I can have a conversation in my household, and boy, they are fun-filled. Not at Thanksgiving, but at Christmas. Remember, these issues aren't Democratic, they're not Republican, they're American issues. They're American issues, American solutions. Okay, we're going to speed it up here because we want to take some questions. Okay, next one. These are a number of things that we've tried to do. Cross state lines, done, all the way through. Keep going. Now, the president says we're the party of no. I am. Wait a minute. Next slide. We are the party of no. I'm not running from it. I was a healthcare professional for 25 years. I've sat there when we've had to pull a tooth, when we had oral cancer, when we sent you for chemotherapy. My friends and colleagues have been there delivering your best, your kids and your grandkids. We saw those joys. We saw your spouse die. We saw somebody die. We've been there. So we do know. I don't run from it. I run to it. Okay? Next one. Immigration. Okay? I'm not afraid of immigration. We need to have a conversation about it. But we need to do it in the right way. Okay? So who knows what the problem with the Senate bill is? Senate bill. What's wrong with the Senate bill? Oh, the little ball keeps coming off. Senate bill is unconstitutional. Absolutely. Revenues and taxes have to start in the House. So the House has not seen that bill. Okay? Because if we were to give it, it would be blue slip because it's unconstitutional. It would go to the trash can. Okay? Well, what they're waiting for is they said, listen, we'll do something germane. Let's talk about border security. What's germane to the issue? We're definitely going to put money to it. We're redefining money so it generates revenues. So once it goes across, it becomes son of Obamacare. They take the Senate bill, they strip our bill, and they put everything on it. I want to have a conversation. Go to the next slide. What we want is a step-by-step approach. Go back to that. We want a step-by-step approach. It has to start with border security, the rule of law. It means we have to have an attorney general upholding the rule of law before we go into this conversation. I'll shock you because we're going to have that conversation about that gentleman at the end of our little conversation piece. So we need to have this. Everybody is subject to the rule of law. No one is treated above it. A civil society cannot exist unless the equivocation of law is applied equally to everyone. Everyone. Okay? So we'll come back and talk to it. Sure, we'll have some conversation and some questions. Next one. Some updates. We've done a number of things. Everybody ought to be scared of IRS. It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue. It's an American issue. You know, we're going to give subsidies on your behalf. If you're going to require a subsidy, it's going to go to the insurance company. And if they've overpaid, they're going to come to you to audit it. Doesn't sound like a very fair exchange to me. Proving myself innocent when I should not be guilty in the first place. Government abuse, we need to hold bureaucrats to the same aspect that we as law-abiding citizens are. Nobody exempted. And the REINS Act, that talks about some of the economic impacts of rules and regulations. Government's not here to build jobs, it's to foster an environment so that we can create jobs. I'm not here to succeed, guarantee you're going to succeed. Jim, were you given a guarantee to succeed or fail? Were you? I don't remember it either. I don't remember when I signed those loans as a dentist, very expensive to deliver. I didn't see Uncle Sam like coming from behind that guy signing the letter with me. It doesn't exist. But I should have opportunity. Opportunity to succeed or fail equally. And if I fail, the magic of America is I can try again. Okay? Next one. Okay. This is a fun fact. We have 77,000 federal vacant buildings. We're spending $1.6 billion in maintenance on them. And they're vacant. So if you've got a federal building you want here, come see me. Okay? There's a lot of things we can do with it. We can put it to work. Okay? Next one. Boy, NSA. Yeah, NSA. Everything they told us, hello. Yeah, they're already recording me. That's okay. I'm sure I'm going to get audited too. But this is the number one issue with millennials. Number one issue. Everything they said that they weren't doing, they're doing, and they've lied. So we have to have a conversation about that. Next one. Benghazi. Very important things happened this last week. Okay? You had a Senate bipartisan committee that said it was totally preventable. They weren't listening and weren't reading the tea leaves. Folks, the day before Benghazi occurred, the president was in a meeting in the White House where he was in part of the time. They talked about security in Benghazi, so they knew it was coming. Let me share something with you. In Syria, there were 11 gas attacks. After that 11th one, we actually had 5 destroyers and 1 aircraft carrier there. In Libya, we had 200 terrorist attacks. We had 50 in Benghazi, and we had nothing. The first time in U.S. history we abandoned people. We let people die, and we did nothing. Now, Inman standards. Why do I bring that up? Well, when we buy an embassy from a country, and it doesn't meet our standards called Inman standards, the Secretary of State is personally held accountable for it. These did not meet Inman standards, so Ms. Clinton is personally responsible in every step of the way. Right on. And you're going to see that. What difference does it make? Well, you know what? Let's not take my words for it. Let's hear their words. We just talked about that, so let's go to the first one. Remember Susan Rice? Well, let's listen to Susan Rice.
There was a violent protest outside of our embassy sparked by this hateful video. What sparked the recent violence was the airing on the internet of a very hateful, very offensive video that has offended many people around the world. Is that in fact what this began as was a spontaneous, not a premeditated response to what had transpired in Cairo. In Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated.
Wow. a bold lie. Had nothing to do with the video. In fact, the email is out where Cairo talks to Benghazi, and they're talking about, the administration's talking about this video. It's got 1,000 hits. That's hardly viral. These aren't my words, folks. You can double check on this on fact check. This is something wrong here. These are the people's own voices. This is their own words. Why do I bring Susan Rice up? Because the Accountability Review Board, in our discussion in our committee, brought up something. Remember Nairobi, Kenya in 1999? You had a similar problem? There was an Accountability Review Board. Can anybody name me the 3 names that are in common from Nairobi, Kenya and Benghazi? Ambassador Kennedy, Ambassador Pickering, and Susan Rice. Oh boy. Let's go to the next one. Now this is Hillary Clinton, right? Yeah, let's hear from Hillary Clinton. The
fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Now wait a minute. Does it make a difference if it's Chelsea?
Yeah.
It does. It makes a difference because this was a totally preventable occurrence. We knew it was coming. In fact, the ambassador was there on behalf of the Secretary of State to spend extra money. He was warned in Europe not to go there. So let's talk about the third one, because I can't take this when somebody keeps blaming it on a video. And even up to 10 days later at the United Nations is the following conversation. Let's have it.
We understand why people take offense to this video because millions of our citizens are among them. I know there are some who ask, why don't we just ban such a video? And the answer is enshrined in our laws. Our Constitution protects the right to practice free speech.
Wow. We're talking about a video, and they knew it wasn't anything to do with a video. Folks, that's wrong. I don't know about you, but my mama raised me to tell what's right and wrong. And when you abide by that narrative, you're as guilty as the person perpetrating it. The president is actually indicting himself here in this application. We need to have the conversation about what happened in Benghazi and hold people accountable. That means it's going to be an ugly chapter for us because there's going to be high-ranking military involved here as well. But the State Department knew, the White House knew. We have an equal branch of accountability from Congress, and we deserve to have it. Now, let's go to the next part. Attorney General of the United States, gotta go. So here's a guy that's supposed to be the holder, the top law enforcement person. He's supposed to judge the rule of law and hold it applicably equally across the board. Here's a guy that won't even tell the president, folks, sir, you're surcepting the law of the executive branch. You can't actually write statute in Obamacare. You can't give exceptions to the rule. Oh, and this is the same guy, by the way, December 31st of this year, something heinous actually happened. We actually had an attorney convicted of 4 acts of treason. She actually represented the blind sheikh. And she conveyed information to the Al-Qaeda that resulted in 90 people being massacred with machetes. Oh, she was found guilty, folks. She was given a meager sentence of 10 years. He gave her off after 4 because she was going to die. She's got 18 months to live. I don't know, but somebody that is a co-conspirator against this country needs to die in jail. It's no different than anybody else. But how did that occur? How did that occur? A doctrine by Eric Holder for early release for political prisoners. You actually have the guy who masterminded 9/11, who's got a 35-page affidavit and a 25-page affidavit now being circulated. Come on, folks. Play the game right. What's right is right. Equal access across the board with the law. This is a guy who's defied it over and over again. He's been implicated in Fast and Furious. We need to let the facts fly. He said he was going to be the most transparent administration. Well, let us have the facts, let them fly. Why can't we get the information on Benghazi? Because the whistleblowers have been retaliated against in Fast and Furious. Oh, by the way, it's coming. You got 3 of the intel guys who said, Mr. President, screw you. They're talking to committee. And they're going to face ramifications. But you know what? We better be there for them. Because we need accountability. Okay? It's time for Eric Holder to see the door. We need a new Attorney General that will uphold the rule of law. And by the way, I hope he doesn't go too far. Because he has to be judged by a jury if there are infractions judged based upon the facts. I tell you this for a reason. Bureaucrats are held to a different realm than the rest of us. If you're going to hold the Attorney General to those realms, you're going to see a lot of people starting to line up and get in line, start doing their job right. It's by example. I was that first kid of 10, so I had a lot of discipline. Worked on my siblings, but I had to pay the penalty. Okay, last one. Next one. I've done this in floor speeches. I'm vivid. I actually show the blood that came out of the young kids. One of the things is this is a racially motivated aspect. Really? Is it? How do we justify that? How do I tell those Hispanic people and their parents that saw the 14 and 16-year-olds lined up at a birthday party and executed? How do I tell them that this is a racially motivated charge? This is about the rule of law, folks. Nothing less, nothing more. I want you to vote up or down. I want my colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, to vote up or down, whether you have faith in the Attorney General of the United States. I personally do not, but I want that vote and I want it now. Okay? This is how you can contact me. You got a number of staff who are here. As I told you, I like coming to see rural America. You teach me more than I can teach you. So I'm here to give you some facts. Help me. You got ideas? Let your light shine, because who knows if your light will shine light on an idea that can turn this around. A lot of our success has come from you. So get involved. Make a difference. America's worth it. I mean, I think of all the benefits that I've been getting. I've got a wonderful family. I've worked hard. I've never been given anything. I built my own house. I built my own practice. It's amazing what America gives back when you try. So, thanks for coming out. I'd like to take a couple of questions if you'd like. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If you've heard about Resolution 425 in the House of Representatives, Mr. DeSantis
Which one is it?
has a resolution expressing disapproval of the failure to satisfy the constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed in the usurpation of the legislative authority of Congress by the President of the United States.
I'm a co-sponsor.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Great, so you know about it.
I do. One of the things that we're looking at is there's a group of folks that are attorneys. I'm not an attorney. They are looking at the duties and oversight of the president and trying to get in the Supreme Court. I have a different gauge. One of the committees I sit on is natural resources. Yeah, and I'm on that. Sometimes it's not updated, but I'm on it. Okay, yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to do is when we start to rebalance power, the Supreme Court is the last rule of law. A lower court cannot hear that claim. And so what we're trying to do is have standing. Now, Barry Goldwater challenged it as an individual and was turned down in 1975. So an individual member of Congress has no standing in the court. But that doesn't mean the House doesn't. For example, when you go through impeachment processes, it starts in the House, a separate entity passes on for adjudication in the Senate. In contempt charges, we held Eric Holder in contempt based only on the House. So there's opportunity that can be done there. The thing is, it's never been challenged. So you got Congress people trying to get into the court to rebalance the power.
And then the other one is H.R. 3857, to authorize the House of Representatives and the Senate to bring in action seeking declaratory and injunctive relief in response to the failure of the President to meet the requirement of the Constitution to faithfully execute the law and for other purposes.
Tom, were we on that one? I thought we were, but
That's okay.
we're trying. There's so many bills being put in that we don't know, but we get a lot of our folks to tell us about them, but that would be something would be a no-brainer for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, young lady.
My question was regarding Obamacare. How I like your idea of reform, repealing and replacing, but how is it possible with all of the trial attorneys that there will ever be tort reform? Because we've been going against that. How can we make it happen? My husband is an OB/GYN, and some of the lawsuits that we've had, they've all been thrown out eventually, but at a cost, as you know. And it's ridiculous. It's like practicing medicine with both hands tied behind your back. That's how he often describes it.
It will be the last domino to fail or to fall. And so you have to have everybody on one side versus the trial attorneys, and then you can win. You can win. So what we're doing is methodically trying to get everybody on track to say, listen, we want a competitive environment that everybody has skin in the game, and then the last straw is the trial attorneys. They want to have one of the most powerful lobbyist groups in the country. You actually have tons of attorneys in Congress. You know, I'm one of 2 dentists in Congress. It's a very lonely place. A lot of not smiles. But I have some power. I have those forceps, and I'm prepared to use them on some bureaucrats. Okay.
I have lots of extras.
What's that? Who else? I thought I saw somebody over here. Right there.
Congressman, thanks so much for taking our calls.
Well, thanks for coming out on this evening.
And thanks for the presentation. But I want to bring this back locally. Kingman and Mohave County is the doorway to the west. We've got interstates, we've got airports, and we also have the rail system that runs 24/7. And if we live in Kingman, you know it's running all the time because the horns are blaring. What are you doing to try to develop that economically for our state and for our county to be, economic development? Because those are 3 or 4 key issues that can bring money back into the state.
Absolutely. But I have a philosophy that federal government's not here to create jobs. I'm here to foster an environment. That's a little different, okay? So if I were to tell you that there's actually a company looking at Mohave County as one of the finalists to actually be one of the sole providers of gunpowder and primers and casings all built in Arizona, that would really affect you. But what they're doing is they're looking at the way Mohave does their business. You're going to need to look at what your environment is. Where are you willing to have some manufacturing? I've been visiting all your manufacturing. You've got some phenomenal aspects. Your machinery here on Laren is one of the top in the western United States. There's nobody that does it better than Laren. It's right here in Kingman, Arizona. But what we have to do is we have to foster that environment. People have to know that you're available. We have lots of people from California that are moving to Texas. I say, hey, stop. Come take a look at Mohave County. Come look at La Paz. Come look at Yuma. Come look at Yavapai. The thing is you need to welcome them as well. You're the ones that are going to create the environment for them. You're the ones that are going to welcome. We just got to draw them to you. The other thing is that rules and regulations. One of the biggest job hindrances is Obamacare. Okay, I'll give you an example. One of my good friends had 3 McDonald's in Flagstaff. He sold one because he couldn't make the mandate work with Obamacare. That's not incentivizing people to get better. That's incentivizing people to be average. Okay? Rules and regulations. Over and over again, we're impugning new rules and regulations that don't even have jurisdiction from Congress. They never even were passed. So one of the things I'm trying to do is trying to hold the executive branch accountable for those actions. That's why I'm trying to get in court with the Navajo generating station. You lose that one stack, you lose everything.
But what about the transportation issues?
What about them?
These are things that go through our area. They don't necessarily stay here. We don't have the manufacturing, nor do we have the hubs, which is a great idea since it's the center point for rail, air, and highway services. What are we doing to develop those, to expand those so that when people come through, they're taking 40, they're taking 10. They're not going bypassing because the roads aren't good.
Well, one of the ones that I'm on is the I-11 corridor. Well, between Vegas and Phoenix, the last 2 metropolitan areas, over 1 million people not connected by an interstate. The problem is we got to go find that money. So one of the proposals I've met with the folks for transportation infrastructure is Davis-Bacon. Okay, let's do this smart-wise. So if we can save all this money, $25 billion, let's just say it's $25 billion. What if we were to take the savings, divide it in half, put half of it to the Deficit Reduction Act, and put half of it back into infrastructure projects? Sounds like a winner to me, sounds kind of common sense to me, that it's kind of a win-win situation. Because for every dollar I'm investing there, I'm getting more additional input. But I also got to do the opportunity for rules and regulations and streamline that process. That's not just federal issues, that's state issues and local issues. From what I heard today in the scat the time that I've been here is that we got a pretty egregious planning and zoning issue. Time is money. I was a businessman. Time is money. Okay? The more and more I got to put out and the more and more time I've got to do something, you ought to streamline the process. Walk me through it. Make it work for me. Because they're going to invest back into Kingman. So those are the opportunities that we're trying to do. But that's why we keep coming out to you, is we want to hear what's on your agenda. You know, we were in Bullhead City today, we were in Parker last night, and tomorrow we're going to be in Lake Havasu, Yuma after that. So we're here to listen to what's special about Kingman and Mohave County, because you're the ones that are job creators. I got to keep the government out of the way, but I have to let you know that you're on the map, and we're open, ready for business. That help? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Bruce Bollinger. During this afternoon, I was meeting with a business owner in Bullhead City who lost somewhere around $22,000 during the time that the government shut down. This was due to restricted access to Lake Mead and the Colorado River. The government employees in Washington were paid back, but our friends who make their livelihoods here on the river and in national parks didn't get anything.
Yep.
I have a suggestion.
We actually have a bill.
Perhaps the next time that the government tries to shut down things, could we declare eminent domain on those national parks for the citizens of Arizona?
We actually have a similar bill to that. It's right now pending in natural resources. It says when there is an eminent restriction of government, whether it be restriction in trade or closure, that those private entities that are determined upon the federal lands in which they exist will not be impugned and have access through the state. Thank you. It actually came through our webpage, so we do read our webmail. Yes. Hildy? Yeah.
We have, you talk about a runaway federal government, but we have runaway unelected bureaucracies that tell us what to do. They're called the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the EPA, and you know all those things that they put upon us, the endangered species. It's destroying us. So what can you do there to help with that?
We've had a number of hearings. We have a number of bills. The problem is once it passes the House, it's dead on arrival in the Senate. You got to have a conversation about this aspect. We're looking at diminishing returns on rules and regulations, and we're not even promulgating good science. I'll give you an example. Up on Marble Canyon, we made a big release to help the humpback chub. The reason I know so much is my son was the one taking the data. It didn't help the humpback chub. It actually benefited the rainbow trout, who eats the humpback chub.
All right, so they're trying to...
We're trying.
You're trying?
We want that conversation. But it also comes back to tort reform. There's got to be impugned damages for all nonprofits. So you've got to have skin in the game. Otherwise, what ends up happening, you have groups like Sierra Club to wait to the 23rd hour, 59th minute with a stamp and an envelope. They stop everything. In fact, we were just over with Mayor Hakem over in Bullhead City. That's exactly how the disposal of BLM land along the river has been held up.
I think she's specific on Willow Beach, if you want to touch on that and give her an update on that.
On which one, Bullhead City?
No, the Willow Beach, the rainbow trout issue, the fish
Oh,
hatchery.
fishing has become a business over here. And so what we've got to do is empower that. And what we have to do is have a transparency review on where fish hatcheries are actually beneficial. We've got a number of them across the board that we've actually engaged with wildlife services to say, listen, this is what benefits this area. Why are you taking it out on them? This is what we need to have. This needs to stay in aspects, and then go back into the budgets and find their operating budgets and remanage it for them.
Well, do you think that this is something that we can take, the Arizona sovereignty, if they won't do it, if they renege on their responsibility, if they mismanage it so much that they don't fix a pipe that could have cost $200,000, now they're saying $2 to $8 million, is there something that this bill that you were talking about, the Arizona sovereignty, that we can take it back?
Well, we're trying to. We're trying to have jurisdiction, but what ends up happening when you're running under the rule of law that's lawless, it makes no difference because there's no enforcement of it. One of the opportunities we have is PILT. When you zero out PILT, this is going to hurt a lot of our federal lands. This is an opportunity to pit education versus environmental groups, and I intend to do that. There's a number of us looking at that. There's got to be a balance, and there's got to be something based on science. It's just like the Forest Service. Just getting to have the contracts where we're starting thinning projects took 2 fires, the Wallow Fire and the Yarnell Fire. We lost $2.5 billion of assets and put out $200 million in the Wallow Fire. How do you replace 19 firefighters? We're putting people in harm's way that can never succeed. And why do we even have contracts of 30,000 acres? Because we're pushing ahead and putting bureaucrats and saying, listen, you're the ones causing this. You got to be part of the solution process. No isn't an answer. I've said that over and over again, and it's good enough for us, it's good enough for bureaucrats.
Is it true that they took some of that, they're not giving us PILT, but they put more money into firefighting? Was that true?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. It just depends upon how you want to look at firefighters. They gave us some assets, some old military assets, and redirected some of the big catastrophic fires because of California, but it's not directed in the proper fashion. It's ludicrous. We can actually be putting people back to work and actually having people bid on this. Instead, what we're doing is we're paying people to fight fires that are catastrophic, and we can only lose. It's absurd. Yes, hi, Jean.
Jean Bishop. I'm here from Kingman, and I'm a Downwinders, and I just wanted to know if you could update us on your legislation that you introduced last year. I know it's stuck in subcommittee. My question is, can you get it out of there? Can you reintroduce it? What can you do with what we already have?
Well, a couple of things that we did is we introduced it as the bill as an amendment process, and we keep getting ruled out of order, that it's not pertinent. And then we keep getting the CBO score that's detrimental because they keep saying that it's going to add increased costs. So we got furious. So we went to CRS, which is the attorneys that run the government, said, how do we do this to make this succeed? Because you actually have admission from administrations that said this was an administrative oversight. And how does this work? When you look at RECA, here's the area closest to these above ground blasts, and part of it is exempt. Give me a break. So we're dealing with CRS. We're hounding them, and they keep saying, well, we have all these budget discussions. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. That's our problem, is it's trying to find some way that it's ruled in order so that it can move forward. And then having a negative score with CBO. That's part of our problem. There's going to be a lot of money left over. It's an argument that we've got to find somebody captivated within CRS that will empower us to make that solution. That's where we're stuck. Because doing the same thing over and over again and asking for a different result is insanity.
Hi, Ray Collison
Hey, Ray.
from Kingman. Great presentation you did. I'm kind of throw a curveball math, something probably totally off base, and that I've become allergic to a lot of stuff, and I heard you mention you're allergic to wheat and gluten. What can we do about GMOs and what Monsanto is doing? Because a lot of the research coming out now is they're killing us through our food, and we need to change how all that came about. And what do you have to say on GMOs?
Well, first of all, you got to base it on science. And with the science is very, very poor. You know, we as man have been genetic engineering all of our food from day one, taking one plant versus another and trying to get a hybrid. So what we need to do is base that based on facts and say, listen, we're going to study GMOs in this case versus something not. And what we have to have is reliable science. The problem that we have is we're not getting reliable science. I'll give you an example in dentistry. When I started 25 years ago, actually 28 years ago, there were like 2 journals, very well referenced, very peer reviewed. So you could take the results that they got, take the circumstances and get the same results or contrary, but very peer reviewed. Today there's 30 some, none of them are peer reviewed. I go through them, look at the title, go back and see who paid for them, see who's paying for them, I don't even read the title. It's not worth the print, they're on there. And that's part of our problem with the science with that. We haven't spent the time really studying the GMO case. There's a lot of hearsay, but not a lot of facts.
And how does that get through and passed in such secrecy like Monsanto got all, you know?
What we have to do is pass budgets. Because when you pass CRs, the administration spends your dollars. When you pass budget, I direct that money to a certain cause for a certain outcome. That's what happens with budgets. But we haven't passed a budget since I've been in Congress. We keep harping about it over and over and over again. The power of the purse is executed when you pass a budget. That's the biggest key, Ray. And that's the most frustrating thing in the world, is the president doesn't want a budget. Harry Reid don't want a budget. They'd rather do a CR.
2 more questions.
2 more questions.
Name where you're from. James Barber from Mohave Valley, Arizona. My wife is a cashier at a local grocery store, and she sees the people come through on EBT cards, and she gets very frustrated because we're on a regular budget, but she can see the waste and fraud every day. She noticed the people have cards that are so old that the embossing is flat and the stripe is gone and the numbers are written in Sharpie. What can we do to revamp this program so it's like we only have one program and it's efficient doing what it's supposed to do?
Well, you're having a discussion right now. It's called the Farm Bill. The farm part of it is the easy part. We've actually taken the farmers away from subsidies and moved them to insurance, a nice stair step to save money. The problem is in food stamps. We have a 13 to 17% fraud, waste, and abuse in food stamps. Personally, I'd like to see everything under WIC because there's half of the fraud, waste, and abuse. If it's good enough for if it's good enough for women and infants and children, you want chicken fingers, go get a job. But here's the problem: is we've asked for in the House budget a less than 5% cut, which is $40 billion over 10 years. That seems reasonable. We're not taking it out of grandma and little kids to be fed properly. We want some incentives for bureaucrats to have some oversight in it. Now what we're being told, that's why they moved PILT out, is that the number that we're hearing is between $9 and $11 billion in cuts over 10 years. Less than $1 billion? And we're advertising overseas to get your EBT cards and your SNAP program? Come on, folks. But I'm the wicked Republican, you know, that's taking it away from people. Stand up and be counted, because this is accountability issues. It's less than 5% in a cut here. So what they did with me, and boy, I can tell you the Western Caucus lambasted Boehner. You knew PILT wasn't put in there. $500 million. You told us that the president wasn't going to get his needs with education. He did. Come on, give up. And now you're going to extort me and Western people because we need the PILT in exchange for abuses in food stamps? Come on. And once again, if we pass budgets, we can hold people accountable. But we have to be able to pass a budget. Give me some people that want to pass a budget. Hold on. I'm following the microphone.
Michelle Arnett, Bullhead City, Arizona. Congressman Gosar, I have a pen and I have a telephone. I think you know where I'm going with that, right?
And we're going to start our own agenda.
Well, yeah, we're going to bypass Congress. Yeah. And also, I read in the paper today that you're going to be invited to weigh in on NSA re-regulation. So isn't that somewhere in our Constitution, like Article 1, Section 1, something like that, that no laws and all that have to come through you?
Yeah.
Well, why is that not happening? I understand the standing thing and the imperialistic presidential thing that we've got going on. How likely is it that Congress is going to get standing in the courts?
All they can say is no. The opportunity's all upright. That's why Trey Gowdy and a number are looking at the legal implications. I'm looking at it from natural resources, but it tells you how frantically we're trying to save this republic. Now, I'm just going to step back for a moment. We find ourselves with an administration that's as hideous in regards to the Constitution. But let's wait a minute. Let's go back. Let's go back for a minute. There's a bipartisan flavor to this. Executive orders didn't start under Barack Obama. We've been doing this a little bit at a time, folks, and we didn't call it into question. We didn't. I'll give you an example. Who loves Ronald Reagan here? I do. Ronald Reagan grew the federal government. He also was the first produced the first czar, which was unconstitutional. So if we're going to ask the other side to look reflectively, we need to reflectively look at our past too and not repeat it. We're human. That's why it's important for us. I mean, our framers wanted our congressmen to come back and be voted in every 2 years. There's a reason why. We're closest to the people. That's why I've told John Boehner, let the people's house do the people's work and stand in front of it. Don't stand behind it, stand in front of it with them. Don't go make special deals because you reek at it. You'd never do a contract for me. Yeah. Well, you don't know. We're going to go into retreat here. Democrats are as divided as Republicans. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not sharing anything that's not being reported. There's directional problems. If there's one person that could go away to make things much better, it's Nancy Pelosi. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes.
But I'll share this with you. This is how reviled she is. There was this election in South Carolina for my friend Tim Scott's seat. There were 13 Republicans. We elected a guy that's got some baggage. He went up against Stephen Colbert's sister. 2 weeks out and I saw the polls. He was down by a minimum of 10 points. There were some polls showed him down 20 points. He stopped campaigning against Stephen Colbert's sister. He took Nancy Pelosi's face, put it on a popsicle stick and said, I'll never vote for her. You either get me or you get her. And in 2 weeks, he won by 10 points.
All right, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and especially the supervisor, Supervisor Angus, and Mayor Watson. And we appreciate your questions and your attendance tonight, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Give yourself a round of hand. You're right.
Sponsoring that bill about the insurance company bailout on the insurance.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome. Good question.